Have you ever felt that invisible force holding you back from wealth despite all your hard work and dedication? That strange sensation that no matter how much you push forward, something unseen keeps pulling you away from the abundance you desire? You're not alone. And what I'm about to share might completely transform how you view wealth creation forever. Has this ever happened to you? You've read countless books on finance, attended seminars, perhaps even invested in various ventures, yet wealth seems to dance just beyond your fingertips. What if I told you that the problem isn't your strategy, your education, or even your network, but rather something happening within your own mind? Wattles discovered something revolutionary. The universe doesn't reward the most educated, the most strategic, or even the hardest working individuals. Instead, it responds to those who are most aligned with the natural laws of abundance. He revealed that wealth isn't something to be hunted down or chased after. It's something to be allowed into your life through a specific mental frequency. The most fascinating part? When the human mind truly understands its creative power, it can literally shape material reality. This isn't mystical thinking. It's about understanding the scientific relationship between thought, energy, and manifestation that modern quantum physics is only beginning to validate today. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this isn't about visualization, boards, or positive thinking alone. It's about accessing a thinking substance that permeates all of existence, a responsive intelligence that shapes itself according to your dominant thoughts. Stay with me until the end, because today we're diving into a forgotten treasure that has been hidden in plain sight for over a century. In the early 1900s, a man named Wallace D. Wattles wrote a remarkably small yet powerful book called The Science of Getting Rich. But this wasn't just another get-rich-quick scheme or complex financial strategy manual. This was something far more profound, a revelation about the fundamental laws governing wealth that most of society has completely forgotten. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The true power of your mind extends far beyond what you've been taught. Most of us have been trained to think of wealth as something external, something we must struggle for, compete for, and sacrifice for. But what if the opposite were true? What if abundance is your natural state and you've simply been programmed to block its flow? What if becoming wealthy is actually brutally simple, requiring not more effort, but a complete shift in how your mind operates? The answer lies in understanding how the mind that already lives in wealth thinks differently from the mind trapped in scarcity. And that's exactly what we're going to explore. The journey toward true abundance often begins with recognizing the inner conflict that keeps us trapped. Think about it. How many of us wake up each morning, put in the hours, follow all the conventional wisdom about wealth creation, yet still find ourselves running in place? This frustration isn't just financial. It's a profound disconnect between our efforts and our results that can leave us questioning everything we've been taught about success. This invisible barrier isn't external. It's not the economy, your background, or even your connections. The true obstacle lives within your own mental landscape. The transformation begins when you realize that wealth acquisition isn't the complex, arduous process we've been conditioned to believe. In reality, it's brutally simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy. The fundamental revelation that changed Wattles' life and can change yours is understanding the distinct difference between two types of consciousness, the begging mind and the creating mind. The begging mind approaches the universe from a position of lack. It pleads, hopes, works frantically, and prays for results, yet remains fundamentally disconnected from the very thing it seeks. Have you noticed how often you might think thoughts like, When I finally have enough money, then I'll feel secure, or if only I could attract this opportunity, then I'd be successful. This mindset, though seemingly innocent, creates a vibrational frequency of absence that the universe can only echo back to you. The creating mind, however, operates from an entirely different dimension of awareness. It doesn't ask, it declares. It doesn't hope, it knows. The creating mind understands that the universe responds not to your words or even your actions, but to the inner certainty you carry. This mindset doesn't see wealth as something to chase, but recognizes abundance as its natural state, allowing resources to flow toward it rather than struggling to acquire them. The hidden truth that most wealth teachers miss entirely is this: you cannot become wealthy while believing you are not yet wealthy. The paradox of manifestation is that your current state of being, not your wanting or needing, determines what you attract. When you feel poor while working toward riches, you remain magnetically aligned with scarcity regardless of your external actions. Now, I want to go even deeper into this psychological journey by exploring what happens in the mind of someone who already lives in wealth consciousness. This isn't about pretending or superficial positive thinking. It's about a fundamental shift in your relationship with the invisible substance that creates all material reality. Imagine your mind as an invisible workshop where every thought is a tool and every emotion is a chisel that sculpts the matter around you. When your dominant thoughts revolve around lack, you're essentially carving more emptiness into your experience. But when you hold thoughts of abundance, not as wishful thinking, but as present reality, you begin shaping the invisible gold that surrounds you. Most people live as though power exists somewhere outside themselves, in the economy, in an employer, in a stroke of luck or opportunity. But the revolutionary insight that can transform your entire relationship with wealth is understanding that the power never resided externally. Your mind is connected to what Wattles called the thinking substance, an intelligent energy that permeates everything and faithfully responds to your dominant thoughts. The revelations continue to unfold when you recognize that this substance doesn't discriminate between fear and faith. It simply creates according to your most consistent mental image. When you declare, "I am poor," that substance obeys. When you affirm, "I am abundant," it responds with equal precision. Write in the comments, "I create, I don't beg," if you're ready to shift your relationship with wealth from pleading to powerful creation. Let's explore what happens within this invisible workshop of your mind. Every single day, you're crafting your reality through the tools of thought and emotion, often without even realizing the profound creative power at your fingertips. This isn't metaphorical, it's the literal mechanism through which your life takes shape. Your thoughts aren't passive observers of reality, they're active architects designing the blueprint of your experience. When you consistently focus on what's missing, what's broken, or what's not enough, you're essentially instructing this workshop to produce more of the same. It's as if you're standing at a cosmic ordering counter, repeatedly saying, "More lack, please." And the universe, operating through perfect law, simply fulfills the order. This insight reveals the hidden dimension of your financial journey, one where your internal dialogue matters more than your external circumstances. Behind the scenes of material reality exists what Wattles brilliantly identified as the thinking substance. This concept might have seemed mystical in his time, but modern quantum physics increasingly validates the idea that consciousness and matter are fundamentally interconnected. This substance isn't something distant or separate from you. It fills the space between atoms, breathes with you, and waits patiently for your instructions. The most revolutionary aspect of this revelation is understanding that this thinking substance is completely impartial. It doesn't judge your thoughts as good or bad, worthy or unworthy. It simply responds with mathematical precision to whatever signal you consistently broadcast. Think of it as the ultimate mirror, reflecting back exactly what you project. No more, no less. What makes this knowledge so transformative is realizing that this substance responds to faith, not logic. When you declare, "I am abundant," while every external circumstance suggests otherwise, the logical mind rebels. But the thinking substance doesn't operate through logic. It responds to the energetic signature of certainty. This is why two people can take identical actions, yet experience dramatically different results. One acts from certainty, the other from desperation. The mindset shift required here is profound. Most people have been taught to trust only what their eyes can see, to believe only after receiving evidence. But the wisdom of Wattles turns this paradigm upside down. First believe, then see. This reversed order of manifestation challenges everything we've been conditioned to accept about how reality forms around us. If these wealth principles resonated with you, hit that subscribe button to join thousands of others transforming their relationship with abundance. Your journey is just beginning. Your daily experience isn't random, it's a perfect echo of your dominant thought patterns. If you've been struggling financially despite your best efforts, consider the possibility that your conscious desires for wealth might be competing against subconscious programming that runs counter to those intentions. The thinking substance doesn't distinguish between conscious and unconscious beliefs. It simply responds to whatever vibrates most consistently. Imagine holding a seed of thought in the invisible realm. When you nurture it with faith, unwavering, unquestioning faith, that seed traverses dimensional boundaries, germinates in the field of infinite possibility, and eventually flowers in your physical experience. But if you plant the seed today, dig it up tomorrow to see if it's growing, then replant it elsewhere the next day, you interrupt the natural process of manifestation. Now I want to go even deeper into understanding how faith operates as the catalyst that transforms thought into reality. Faith isn't mere hoping or wishing. It's a distinct vibrational state that creates a direct channel between your consciousness and the intelligent substance that shapes all matter. When properly understood, faith becomes the most practical tool in your wealth creation arsenal. Type in the comments, "My mind is now shaping abundance," if you're beginning to feel a shift in how you understand the relationship between your thoughts and your financial reality. True transformation begins with a profound insight. Most people approach the universe as supplicants rather than creators. Think about how often we've been conditioned to plead with life through desperate prayers, anxious hoping, or even working ourselves to exhaustion while feeling fundamentally unworthy of the rewards we seek. This paradigm of begging is so deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness that we rarely question its validity or effectiveness. But here's where the awakening begins. The universe doesn't actually respond to pleading or desperation. In fact, when you approach life from a position of lack, you're broadcasting a frequency that creates more of the same. It's a hidden truth that completely revolutionizes our approach to manifestation. The miracle you've been waiting for doesn't arrive through asking. It emerges when you shift from requesting to creating. This distinction is far more than semantic. It represents fundamentally different energetic signatures. The mind that begs vibrates in scarcity, constantly, reinforcing its own perception of not having enough. It says, "Please give me," from a position of emptiness. The mind that creates, however, vibrates in a completely different dimension, one of power, certainty, and spiritual authority. It doesn't plead, it declares. It doesn't hope, it knows. And here's the revelation that changes everything. The universe doesn't serve those who need it most. It serves those who vibrate with power. This isn't some cosmic injustice. It's simply the impersonal law of resonance that governs all energy systems. including your financial reality. When you shift your inner dialogue from "I hope I can have" to "I am already expressing," the entire universe rearranges itself to match your new vibrational offering. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how your thoughts operate as seeds of future manifestation. Imagine every dominant thought you hold as a luminous seed burning in the silence of infinite possibility. When that thought seed is charged with genuine faith, not wishful thinking but unshakable knowing, it begins an extraordinary journey through dimensional planes that most people never consciously perceive. This seed doesn't immediately produce visible results, which is why so many abandon the process prematurely. Instead, it first establishes roots in the invisible realm, drawing to itself the precise elements needed for its eventual physical expression. Like any seed, it requires consistent nourishment, not just fleeting attention, but sustained focus and emotional energy. The journey of manifestation often collapses at this critical germination stage. When doubt creeps in, when you change directions too frequently, when you complain about current circumstances or feel fundamentally unworthy of your desires, you're essentially uprooting the seed before it has a chance to sprout. This explains why so many people experience the frustrating cycle of initially exciting ideas that never seem to materialize. Understanding this seed principle reveals why patience isn't just a virtue, but a practical necessity in the manifestation process. Nature doesn't rush. A mighty oak doesn't appear overnight from an acorn, yet the intelligence guiding its growth never doubts the outcome. Similarly, your thought seeds unfold according to divine timing that rarely matches your ego's impatient schedule. This seed metaphor illuminates another crucial insight. Faith isn't blind hope or passive waiting. It's active certainty in motion. It's walking through the world as if you already possess what your physical eyes cannot yet see. When you embody this level of conviction, your entire energy field shifts, and the universe silently organizes itself to reflect your inner landscape. The catalyst that transforms an ordinary thought into a powerful creative seed is emotion. When your thoughts carry the emotional charge of already having manifested your desire, the gratitude, joy, and peace that naturally accompany fulfillment, they become irresistible commands to the universal substance. This explains why merely reciting affirmations without genuine feeling produces such limited results. Let me introduce you now to the profound difference between hope and faith. Two states of consciousness that appear similar on the surface but produce dramatically different outcomes in your reality. Where hope yearns, faith knows. Where hope looks to the future, faith lives in the eternal now. This distinction holds the key to your financial breakthrough. Drop a comment saying, "I'm planting powerful seeds," if you're committed to nurturing your thought seeds with unwavering faith rather than uprooting them with doubt. Let's explore this crucial distinction between hope and faith that changes everything. Hope is beautiful, but it's fundamentally passive. It sits in the waiting room of life, checking its watch and wondering when its number will be called. Faith, on the other hand, moves with a different energy entirely. It doesn't wait. It walks. It doesn't wish. It embodies. Faith is certainty in motion, the lived experience of your desire fulfilled before external evidence supports that reality. This embodied certainty creates a profound shift in your energy field. When you truly walk through your day as if you already possess the wealth, health, or relationship you desire, not as a mental exercise but as your felt reality, something remarkable happens in the quantum field surrounding you. The universe, which responds not to your words but to your energetic signature, begins silently orchestrating events, encounters, and opportunities that align with your inner state. Think of yourself as an actor in the cosmic play of creation. Most people read their lines from a script of lack, limitation, and not yet. But the breakthrough performers, those who manifest extraordinary lives, rehearse a different script entirely. They speak, think, and move as if their desired reality is already secured, already accomplished. And this isn't pretending. It's a sophisticated engagement with the underlying mechanics of manifestation. The universe proves remarkably obedient to this approach, not because it favors certain people, but because it responds with perfect precision to the vibrational offering each person broadcasts. What you think with emotion becomes your energetic transmission, and what you transmit consistently becomes your life experience. This is why momentary visualization practices often fail. They don't sustain the emotional frequency long enough to reorganize physical reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the invisible architecture that underpins all physical manifestation. This insight completely revolutionizes how you'll view the material world around you. Everything, absolutely everything, that currently exists in tangible form first existed as pure thought energy in the invisible realm. This isn't philosophical speculation. It's the fundamental mechanism of creation itself. Before gold was mined from the earth, it existed as concept. Before any building stood tall, it lived as blueprint in an architect's mind. Before your next major opportunity arrives at your doorstep, it exists right now as a thought pattern, waiting for someone to believe it into physical expression. Nothing manifests in the material world that wasn't first conceived in consciousness. This revelation places extraordinary creative power in your hands. When you grasp that, physical reality is actually the final stage of manifestation rather than its starting point. You begin engaging with creation at its source rather than its outcome. Most people spend their lives reacting to what already exists, but the true creators initiate new realities by working directly with the invisible substance that precedes all form. The visionary entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators who've transformed our world understood this principle, whether consciously or intuitively. They didn't just respond to market conditions. They created new markets. They didn't just fulfill existing demands. They invented new possibilities that no one had previously imagined. And they accomplished this feat not through superhuman talent, but through their capacity to hold an unwavering mental image and infuse it with absolute certainty. This understanding reveals why the typical approach to goal achievement so often fails. Most people set targets based on improving what already exists, which keeps them tethered to current conditions. But those who create radical breakthroughs start with pure vision, unconstrained by existing circumstances, and then work backward to manifest that vision regardless of apparent obstacles. Your thoughts are not passive observers of reality. They are its building blocks. The substance of the universe is fundamentally mental in nature, responding with perfect precision to concentrated thought energy. This explains why two people can take identical physical actions yet experience dramatically different results. One is transmitting limitation, while the other broadcasts expansion. Let me take you deeper into the practical application of this principle by exploring how the wealthy mind creates with intention rather than reacts from circumstance. This shift in perspective is the invisible doorway to financial liberation that most people walk past every day. Write in the comments, "I walk in certainty now," if you're ready to activate faith as certainty in motion rather than passive hope in your financial journey. This invisible mechanism of creation reveals something even more profound about reality itself. There exists a silent, intelligent substance that permeates every atom of existence, a formless yet responsive medium that fills the spaces between all physical matter. This substance isn't some distant cosmic force operating beyond your reach. It's intimately present in every moment, breathing with you, flowing through you, waiting with infinite patience for your conscious instructions. The ancient wisdom traditions intuited this reality for millennia, describing it through various metaphors and spiritual concepts. But Wattles approached it with remarkable clarity when he identified what he called the thinking substance, an intelligence that doesn't judge, doesn't sleep, doesn't favor one person over another, but simply and perfectly responds to thought. Modern quantum physics has begun validating this understanding through discoveries about the observer effect and the fundamental role of consciousness in collapsing wave functions into particles. What makes this revelation so liberating is understanding that this substance responds with perfect precision to your mental commands. Each thought you hold consistently isn't merely a subjective experience, it's an instruction transmitted to the very fabric of the universe. This responsiveness operates through immutable law, not preference or favoritism. The substance doesn't decide who deserves abundance. It simply flows according to the channels your dominant thoughts create. When your consistent thought pattern says, "I can't afford this," or "Wealth is for others, not me," the substance receives these limitations as commands and faithfully executes them by closing pathways to abundance. Conversely, when your dominant thought pattern declares, "It's already mine," or "Wealth flows to me naturally," the substance responds by opening channels through which prosperity can manifest in your experience. The transformation begins when you realize that these commands aren't occasional affirmations or visualizations, but the sum total of your moment-by-moment thought patterns. Your current financial reality reflects not what you occasionally wish for, but what you consistently believe at both conscious and unconscious levels. This insight reveals why affirmations alone often fail to create lasting change. They represent surface-level programming, attempting to override deeper mental commands that may contradict your stated desires. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough is a fundamental shift in these command patterns. The mind that creates wealth doesn't sporadically think prosperous thoughts while predominantly focusing on lack. Instead, it establishes abundance as its baseline frequency, its default operating system from which occasional doubts may arise but never dominate. This explains why some people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly while others struggle despite taking similar external actions. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how your inner landscape directly shapes your outer reality. Imagine your consciousness as a projector and the physical world as a screen. The images appearing on that screen aren't random. They're precise reflections of the film running through your mental projector. The universe doesn't decide what appears on your screen. It simply manifests whatever images you consistently project. This revelation completely revolutionizes traditional approaches to wealth creation that focus primarily on external strategies while neglecting the internal programming that ultimately determines those strategies' effectiveness. When you grasp that your dominant thoughts are literally shaping the substance of your experience, you stop treating mindset work as optional self-help and recognize it as the foundation of all material creation. The paradigm shift occurs when you move from viewing yourself as a passive recipient of circumstance to recognizing yourself as an active transmitter of creative energy. Every thought you think ripples through the intelligent substance. Every emotion you feel colors that thought with magnetic power, and every conviction you hold shapes the resulting manifestation. Nothing in your experience escapes this creative mechanism. It's operating whether you're consciously directing it or not. This understanding reveals why gratitude practices are so powerful in wealth creation, not as spiritual bypassing, but as practical, energetic alignment. When you genuinely feel grateful for abundance before it physically manifests, you're issuing a clear command to the thinking substance that prosperity is your natural state. The substance, which cannot judge or question, simply responds by reshaping itself according to your dominant feeling tone. Share in the comments, "I command abundance now," if you're beginning to recognize how your thoughts are instructions to the intelligent substance that shapes all material reality. Let me share a profound truth that completely transforms how you view the relationship between your inner and outer worlds. Your external life, every circumstance, relationship, and financial situation you currently experience isn't random or arbitrary. It's a precise mirror reflecting the landscape you've cultivated within your own consciousness. This reflection operates with such mathematical precision that, once you understand its mechanics, you'll never view your thoughts as casual or inconsequential again. Think about the world you currently inhabit, the opportunities that seem to find you or elude you, the resources that flow easily or appear blocked, the synchronicities that either enhance your journey or seem absent altogether. All of these external conditions are faithfully echoing your predominant internal state. If your mind is populated primarily by thoughts of limitation, scarcity, and fear, those become the very conditions you encounter in your daily experience, not because you're being punished, but because you're being perfectly mirrored. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that when you shift your inner landscape from limitation to possibility, the universe responds not with resistance, but with remarkable cooperation. It's as if the entire field of reality becomes fertile ground, ready to nurture whatever seeds of vision you plant within it. This isn't metaphorical. It's the literal mechanism through which your thoughts become things. Most people spend their lives trying to rearrange external conditions while leaving their internal landscape untouched, essentially rearranging deck chairs while ignoring the ship's steering wheel. They exhaust themselves fighting against circumstances that simply reflect their own dominant thought patterns. The breakthrough comes when you realize that lasting transformation occurs from the inside out, never from the outside in. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the extraordinary power of mental imagery in the manifestation process. This insight completely revolutionizes conventional approaches to visualization and reveals why some people manifest with remarkable speed while others struggle despite their best efforts. Everything, absolutely everything that exists in material form was first an image held in someone's mind. Every architectural marvel, every revolutionary invention, every flourishing business empire, and every personal fortune first existed as nothing more than a mental picture sustained with emotional intensity and unwavering conviction. The external world is literally built from the invisible architecture of human imagination. What separates the rare individual who manifests extraordinary results from the masses who struggle with persistent limitation? It's rarely differences in education, resources, or even effort. It's the clarity and consistency of their mental images. Most people live without clear pictures of what they truly desire. Instead, they operate from a confused internal state filled with diffuse, general wishes, contradictory thoughts pulling in opposing directions, and underlying fears that contaminate their creative energy. This absence of clear mental imagery creates a fundamental impediment in the manifestation process. The thinking substance we've discussed requires precise instructions to shape itself accordingly. When your mental projector displays only vague, shifting, or contradictory images, the substance cannot organize itself into coherent material form. It's like trying to build a house without a blueprint. You might create something, but it won't resemble your intended result. The mastery journey begins when you commit to mental clarity, when you define your desires with such precision that you could walk through them in your imagination as if they already existed in physical form. This doesn't mean suppressing all doubts or negative thoughts that creates its own kind of internal conflict. Instead, it means cultivating a predominant mental state of such vivid clarity that occasional doubts become mere background noise rather than directing forces. Your mind isn't just processing reality, it's generating it. When you recognize that your consciousness is the creative center from which your entire life flows, you stop treating visualization as an occasional manifestation technique and begin approaching it as the fundamental creative act that precedes all physical expression. Share in the comments, "I see clearly now," if you're ready to transform your inner landscape from vague wishes into precise, powerful mental images that the universe can faithfully reproduce in material form. This mental projector concept offers a revolutionary perspective on how your consciousness creates your reality. Think about how a film projector works. It casts images onto a blank screen, transforming emptiness into a vivid story. Your mind operates with precisely the same creative mechanism. It's constantly projecting thought patterns, belief structures, and emotional frequencies onto the neutral screen of physical reality. And just like a projector, it can only display what's contained in the film you're running through it. Here's the pivotal insight that transforms your entire relationship with wealth creation. You simply cannot project abundance onto the screen of your life while your internal film continues to play scenes of limitation and scarcity. No amount of external action, strategy, or effort can override this fundamental principle. The universe, acting as the faithful screen, can only reflect back exactly what you're projecting from within. Many people find themselves trapped in a frustrating cycle, consciously desiring prosperity while unconsciously projecting its opposite. They affirm abundance with their words while their deepest beliefs broadcast lack. They set ambitious financial goals while their emotional frequency transmits unworthiness. This internal contradiction creates the psychological equivalent of static, a jumbled signal that the universe cannot clearly interpret or manifest. What transforms this entire equation is understanding that what you imagine with genuine emotion doesn't just influence the invisible substance, it literally imprints upon it. Your emotionalized thoughts aren't merely subjective experiences, they're energetic templates that the intelligent substance molds itself around. This explains why casual visualization practices often fail to produce results. They lack the emotional intensity required to create a clear imprint on the field of manifestation. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how your thought patterns create channels through which your life experience flows. Imagine your mind as a powerful river of light, constantly carving the landscape of your destiny. Just as water gradually shapes the earth over which it flows, your thoughts, particularly those you repeat most consistently, are carving channels in the field of possibility that determine where your life energy naturally flows. Every time you repeat a thought pattern, whether of limitation or possibility, of fear or faith, you deepen that mental channel, making it more likely that your future thoughts will follow the same path. This creates a form of psychological momentum that explains why breaking free from established thought patterns requires such intentional effort. The river naturally follows the deepest channel unless consciously directed elsewhere. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that you're always feeding one of two primary channels, the channel of fear or the channel of certainty. Both flow with equal force through human consciousness, but they lead to dramatically different destinations. The channel of fear, with its tributaries of doubt, worry, and limitation, inevitably leads to the experience of scarcity, regardless of external circumstances. The channel of certainty, with its tributaries of trust, vision, and possibility, flows directly to the ocean of abundance. Your transformation begins when you consciously redirect the flow of your mental energy from one channel to the other. This isn't accomplished through occasional positive thoughts, but through consistent redirection that eventually carves an entirely new pathway for your life force to follow. The initial stages of this redirection require vigilance and determination precisely because you're working against the momentum of previously established channels. This river metaphor reveals why some people seem to manifest prosperity with such apparent ease. They've spent years, often unconsciously, deepening their channel of certainty until abundance flows to them as naturally as water flows downhill. It's not that they never experience doubt or fear. It's that these emotions no longer define their dominant channel. Write in the comments, "I'm carving new channels," if you've decided to consciously redirect your mental river towards certainty and abundance rather than letting it flow through the old channels of limitation. Among all the frequencies available to the human consciousness, there exists one particular vibration that stands in a class of its own, a frequency so powerful that it can literally transform the architecture of your reality. This vibration opens doors where previously you saw only walls, dissolves the grip of fear that has held you captive, attracts what logic deems impossible, and brings divine order to what appears as chaos. This extraordinary frequency is gratitude, but we must make an essential distinction here. The gratitude I'm referring to isn't the superficial social courtesy we've been conditioned to express. It's not the habitual thank you, murmured without feeling, or the gratitude lists written mechanically as a spiritual exercise. I'm speaking of a profound, energetic state, a gratitude so authentic that it burns in your chest like sacred fire, a gratitude so alive that you feel it reverberate through every cell of your being before there's any external evidence to justify it. This quality of gratitude represents one of the highest vibrational states a human being can embody. When you enter this state genuinely, not as a manifestation technique, but as a lived reality, something extraordinary happens in the field around you. The frequency you emit literally reconfigures the energetic landscape of your experience, dissolving blockages that may have resisted years of effort and struggle. The remarkable power of gratitude isn't just in how it makes you feel emotionally, though that's certainly valuable. Its true power lies in its function as the primary bridge between the invisible realm of potential and the visible world of manifestation. Genuine gratitude is perhaps the most direct pathway between what you desire and its physical expression. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the metaphysical mechanics behind this principle. When you express authentic gratitude for something you haven't yet experienced in physical form, you're doing something revolutionary. You're affirming, "I have already received it," at the level of cause rather than effect. And the universal intelligence, which responds with perfect precision to your dominant vibration, simply completes the circuit by manifesting in form what you've already claimed in consciousness. This reveals one of the most commonly misunderstood aspects of the manifestation process, its true directional flow. Most people believe the correct sequence is, first receive the blessing, then feel grateful for it. But this conventional understanding actually reverses the creative order. The higher truth is this: first, feel the gratitude as if you've already received, then the manifestation arrives as a perfect mirror of that internal state. This reversed understanding completely transforms your relationship with the creative process. The majority of seekers find themselves trapped in a cycle of conditional gratitude. When I have more money, I'll be grateful. When my business succeeds, I'll give thanks. When my health improves, I'll appreciate my body. But this approach fundamentally misaligns you with the creative order of the universe. Those who manifest with remarkable ease understand that unconditional gratitude isn't the result of abundance, it's the cause. Your gratitude doesn't simply attract good things to you like a magnet, it actually shifts your entire field of reality. When you genuinely feel grateful before any external change has occurred, you're essentially declaring to the intelligent substance, I am already complete. And that substance, which cannot judge or question your vibration, simply reflects back that completeness in your material experience. This explains why many spiritual traditions place such emphasis on gratitude not just as a virtue, but as a creative force. When your heart overflows with thanksgiving, regardless of current circumstances, you enter a state of vibrational alignment with the abundance that already exists in potential form. You're no longer trying to get something you don't have. You're simply allowing what already exists in the unmanifest realm to flow into physical expression. Type in the comments, "Gratitude creates my reality," if you're beginning to sense how this profound frequency can transform your relationship with abundance from seeking to allowing. This understanding of gratitude leads us to an even more profound realization that completely transforms the conventional approach to appreciation. Most people believe gratitude requires a reason, a tangible blessing, a fortunate event, or some external circumstance worthy of thanks. But this perspective fundamentally misunderstands gratitude's true nature and power. In its purest form, gratitude doesn't need a reason. It needs presence, your complete awareness in the eternal now where all possibilities already exist. When you cultivate the capacity for gratitude without external cause, you're engaging in one of the most powerful acts of consciousness transformation possible. This isn't gratitude as reaction to circumstances. It's gratitude as recognition of the intelligent force that sustains your very existence, even during your darkest moments. It's acknowledging the miracle of your breathing, the gift of consciousness itself, the extraordinary privilege of experiencing this human journey. The revelation that changes everything is what happens energetically when you enter this state of causeless gratitude. Something that appears almost miraculous unfolds. Energy that previously seemed stagnant suddenly begins to move. Blockages that resisted years of effort dissolve. Doors that remained stubbornly closed swing open with surprising ease. This movement happens not because you've struggled harder or strategized better, but because you've shifted your fundamental frequency to one that naturally attracts flow rather than resistance. This practice represents a profound paradigm shift from transactional gratitude, "I'll be thankful when I receive something," to transformational gratitude. My thankfulness itself is the creative force that reshapes my reality. When you embody this understanding, gratitude becomes not just a pleasant emotion, but a sophisticated technology for consciousness expansion and manifestation. Now I want to go even deeper into understanding the distinctive thought patterns that separate the wealthy mind from conventional consciousness. This insight completely revolutionizes traditional approaches to financial achievement by revealing that prosperity isn't primarily about luck, destiny, or even strategic action, though these all play their roles. At its core, wealth creation is about mental structure, the distinctive architecture of thought that generates abundance as its natural expression. A genuinely wealthy mind doesn't merely think differently than the majority, it feels different, reacts different, and vibrates at an entirely different frequency. This isn't about superficial positive thinking or temporary motivation. It's about a fundamentally altered relationship with reality itself that transforms every aspect of how you perceive and interact with the world of money and opportunity. Perhaps the most revealing distinction lies in the central question that governs decision-making. While most people consistently ask themselves, what do I have to do to become wealthy? Focusing exclusively on external actions and strategies, the wealthy mind approaches life from an entirely different angle. It asks instead, who do I have to be to naturally attract and sustain abundance? This seemingly subtle shift represents a complete revolution in perspective. The first question assumes wealth is something external that must be pursued, captured, and held through continuous effort. It places all emphasis on doing while neglecting the more fundamental level of being. The second question recognizes that sustainable prosperity flows not from frantic activity, but from internal identity, from becoming the kind of consciousness that naturally magnetizes abundance through resonance rather than effort. This shift from doing to being explains why some people seem to generate wealth with remarkable ease, while others struggle. Despite working frantically, the mentally wealthy person isn't necessarily working harder. They're operating from an entirely different foundation of identity. They don't push against the world. They allow the world to flow through them. This isn't arrogance, but deep understanding of how energy systems function through alignment rather than force. The wealthy mind carries distinctive thought patterns that generate prosperity as their natural expression, not as occasional success, but as consistent manifestation. While others oscillate between hope and disappointment, between temporary motivation and chronic frustration, the wealthy consciousness maintains a steady vibrational offering that the universe can only mirror back as material abundance. Write in the comments, I am the source of my wealth, if you're beginning to recognize how profoundly your being state, not just your doing, determines your financial reality. Let's examine this fundamental contrast that separates the mentally wealthy from the mentally impoverished. When you observe these two consciousness patterns in action, you witness entirely different relationships with reality itself. The mentally poor person, regardless of their bank account balance, relates to life primarily through struggle. They push against circumstances, fight for opportunities, and force their way toward goals through sheer effort and determination. This approach assumes that resistance is natural and abundance must be conquered through persistent battle. The mentally rich person, again, regardless of current financial status, operates from an entirely different paradigm. They don't push the world, they allow the world to move for them. This doesn't mean passive inaction, it means aligned action that flows with rather than against universal currents. They understand that creation happens through resonance rather than resistance, through attraction rather than pursuit, through becoming rather than acquiring. This distinction isn't about arrogance or spiritual bypassing of genuine challenges. It's about a profound recognition of how energy systems actually operate. The universe, that intelligent substance we've been discussing, doesn't respond to how hard you try or how much you struggle. It responds with mathematical precision to the frequency you consistently emit. Effort without alignment often produces frustration rather than manifestation, while aligned action, even when minimal, creates results that seem miraculous to outside observers. The transformation begins when you shift from seeing yourself as someone who must overcome the world's resistance to recognizing yourself as a conscious channel through which abundance naturally flows when properly aligned. This perspective doesn't eliminate necessary action, but it fundamentally changes the quality and experience of that action, from pushing a boulder uphill to guiding a boat with the current. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of the wealthy consciousness, its extraordinary capacity to believe without requiring external proof. This reversal of conventional causality represents the pivotal turning point in your journey from struggle to ease, from chasing prosperity to embodying it. The typical mind operates from the assumption that seeing is believing, that evidence must precede faith, that proof must come before conviction. This approach seems logical and prudent on the surface, but it fundamentally misunderstands the creative sequence through which reality manifests. The wealthy mind grasps a higher order of operation. Believing is seeing. It doesn't need external confirmation to maintain internal certainty because it recognizes that internal certainty precedes external manifestation. This revelation transforms your entire relationship with the manifestation process. The wealthy consciousness doesn't wait for the bank account to fill before feeling abundant. It doesn't require the business to succeed before operating with confidence. It doesn't demand that opportunities appear before stepping forward with certainty. Instead, it holds an unshakable conviction regardless of temporary appearances, knowing that external conditions are lagging indicators of internal states, not their cause. What makes this approach so powerful is understanding that the wealthy mind doesn't look for signs, it emits them. It doesn't scan the horizon for evidence that prosperity is possible. It broadcasts the frequency of prosperity so clearly that evidence has no choice but to align with that transmission. This represents a complete inversion of how most people approach manifestation, waiting for the world to show them abundance before they'll believe in it, rather than projecting abundance so consistently that the world can only reflect it back. This capacity to believe independently of current circumstances isn't delusional thinking or denial of present reality. It's a sophisticated engagement with the true nature of reality as a responsive medium that mirrors your dominant consciousness. The wealthy mind can acknowledge current limitations while simultaneously holding a vision that transcends them, maintaining an unwavering frequency of abundance regardless of temporary appearances. The journey of transformation invites you to develop this remarkable capacity to believe first, to cultivate such profound inner certainty that external proof becomes unnecessary rather than prerequisite. When you operate from this level of conviction, manifestation accelerates because you've removed the primary obstacle to its expression, your own doubt and contingent belief. Share in the comments, "I believe first, then I see," if you're ready to adopt this revolutionary approach to manifestation that creates evidence rather than requiring it. This distinctive way of operating reveals another crucial dimension of the wealthy mind, what we might call its invisible discipline. This isn't the kind of discipline most people associate with wealth creation. The rigid adherence to budgets, the strict scheduling, the forced productivity. While those external disciplines have their place, the mentally wealthy person maintains a far more profound internal discipline that occurs largely behind the scenes of conscious awareness. The wealthy mind exercises remarkable vigilance over its thought environment, understanding that each mental pattern directly shapes material reality. It doesn't carelessly allow thoughts of scarcity or limitation to take root and proliferate. This doesn't mean pretending these thoughts never arise. They appear in everyone's consciousness. The difference lies in how they're processed when they do appear. When thoughts of lack, fear, or limitation emerge, the wealthy consciousness doesn't identify with them, fight against them, or shame itself for experiencing them. Instead, it observes them with detachment, acknowledges their presence without judgment, and then consciously replaces them with thoughts aligned with abundance. This represents a sophisticated relationship with mental content, neither suppressing unwanted thoughts nor becoming captive to them. The revelation that transforms your approach to negative thinking is understanding that fear itself is not your enemy. Fear is simply energy without direction, a powerful force that can either paralyze you or, when properly channeled, propel you toward growth. The wealthy mind doesn't waste energy fighting against fear. It redirects that same energy toward creative purposes, transforming what could be limitation into fuel for expansion. This invisible discipline creates an internal environment where abundance thoughts naturally predominate, not through forced positivity, but through consistent redirection of attention. Like a skilled gardener who doesn't fight against weeds, but simply focuses on nurturing desired plants, the wealthy consciousness cultivates prosperity thinking until it becomes the natural ecosystem of the mind. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding a profound state of being that represents perhaps the ultimate expression of wealth consciousness, what we might call conscious silence. There comes a turning point in the journey where you no longer need to verbalize your desires, plead for opportunities, or insist on particular outcomes because you've reached a level of energetic alignment where the universe understands what your mouth keeps silent. This conscious silence isn't the absence of thought or communication. It's the presence of such complete inner knowing that external validation becomes unnecessary. It's the space where you finally stop making mental and emotional noise about what you lack or need, and instead rest in the profound certainty that everything is already unfolding perfectly according to your highest intentions. What makes this state so magnetically powerful is the clarity of signal it transmits to the intelligent substance we've been discussing. When your mind is filled with the static of worry, doubt, and desperate wanting, the universe receives mixed messages about what you're truly calling forth. But when you enter the realm of conscious silence, that peaceful certainty beyond words, your signal becomes crystal clear, allowing the universe to respond with remarkable precision. This is why many of the most successful wealth creators report experiencing a distinctive moment of calm surrender before their biggest breakthroughs, a point where they stopped struggling and simply knew beyond doubt that their vision was already fulfilled, even before external evidence appeared. This wasn't resignation, but recognition, the profound understanding that their inner work was complete and the outer manifestation was now inevitable. The journey toward mastering this conscious silence represents a significant evolution in your relationship with manifestation. In earlier stages, you might rely heavily on affirmations, visualizations, and other external techniques to redirect your thought patterns. But as your consciousness expands, you naturally move toward this silent knowing, the space beyond technique where your very being becomes the affirmation. Drop in the comments, "My silence speaks abundance," if you're beginning to recognize the profound creative power in that space of peaceful certainty beyond words or mental effort. To deepen our understanding of how the mind interacts with the field of manifestation, let me share a powerful metaphor that illuminates this entire process. Imagine your mind as a sacred lake nestled in a valley of infinite possibility. This isn't merely poetic language, it's a precise description of how your consciousness interfaces with the universal intelligence. When this sacred lake of your mind is agitated by waves of worry, ripples of doubt, or storms of fear, its surface becomes disturbed. Look into an agitated lake, and what do you see? A distorted, fragmented reflection that bears little resemblance to what it's attempting to mirror. This is precisely what happens when you attempt to manifest from a state of mental turbulence. The universe, that perfect blue sky of possibility hovering above, cannot be accurately reflected through the chaos of an unsettled mind. But when the sacred lake becomes still, when the surface tension of your thoughts relaxes into perfect calm, something remarkable occurs. The lake transforms into a flawless mirror, reflecting with astonishing precision the vast sky above. This perfect reflection represents the manifestation process operating at its highest potential. The universal intelligence can only reproduce in physical form what your consciousness clearly reflects when in a state of peaceful certainty. This revelation offers profound insight into why meditation, contemplative practices, and mental stillness aren't merely spiritual luxuries, but practical necessities for anyone serious about manifestation. The journey toward wealth isn't about accumulating more mental activity, more strategies, more affirmations, more visualizations, but about cultivating the profound stillness that allows perfect reflection of your highest intentions. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the extraordinary creative power that emerges when you master the art of silence. This isn't the passive silence of disengagement, but the dynamic silence of complete presence, the space where the constant chatter of the thinking mind gives way to a deeper intelligence that operates beyond words or concepts. Whoever truly masters this internal silence essentially masters the art of creation itself, because they gain access to a level of wisdom, intuition, and inspiration that remains inaccessible to the noise-filled mind. In this space of profound quiet, you begin to hear answers to questions you haven't even verbalized, solutions to problems you've been struggling with, and guidance so precisely tailored to your journey that it could only come from the deepest intelligence within you. This explains a pattern you've likely noticed among history's greatest innovators, artists, scientists, and wealth creators. Their most brilliant breakthroughs rarely came during moments of intense mental effort. Instead, these quantum leaps in understanding typically emerged after periods of deep silence, often when the analytical mind had temporarily surrendered its grip. Newton, under the apple tree, Einstein during his thought experiments, Jobs during his meditative walks, the pattern repeats across domains and eras. Behind every brilliant business idea, every market-disrupting innovation, every precisely timed investment decision, there exists a moment of preceding silence, that sacred pause where the noise of conventional thinking disappears and something far more intelligent emerges to take its place. This isn't mystical speculation, but the practical experience of those who've learned to access deeper currents of creativity through inner stillness. The transformation of your relationship with wealth begins when you recognize that the most valuable real estate isn't external property, but the internal space of silence you cultivate within your own consciousness. It's in this hallowed ground that your highest inspirations take root, your most accurate intuitions speak, and your clearest visions of possibility emerge without distortion. Where mental noise disappears, the soul finally has room to speak, and the soul, that deepest aspect of yourself connected directly to universal intelligence, never speaks the language of limitation or scarcity. It communicates only in the dialect of boundless possibility, of creative solutions, of pathways that transcend conventional thinking, but this voice can only be heard when the constant chatter of worry, planning, and self-doubt temporarily subsides. Type in the comments, "I'm cultivating my sacred silence," if you're beginning to recognize how the practice of inner stillness might be the missing element in your manifestation journey. This understanding of silence naturally leads us to another profound dimension of the manifestation process, the true nature of receptivity. Here's a revolutionary insight that completely transforms conventional manifestation approaches. You don't ultimately attract what you desire, you attract what you're willing to receive. This distinction might seem subtle initially, but it represents a fundamental shift in how energy flows into your experience. Most people operate from the assumption that stronger desire leads to stronger attraction, but this overlooks a crucial spiritual principle. Receiving doesn't mean asking or wanting. Receiving means allowing. It's about opening the internal channels through which abundance can flow without encountering resistance from your own consciousness. This explains the common experience of desperately wanting something, yet somehow repelling it. Simultaneously, a pattern that mystifies those who don't understand this principle. Think about your current relationship with receiving in general. Do you find it easier to give than to receive? Do you feel uncomfortable when gifts come without you having earned them? Do you subtly resist compliments, opportunities, or support that comes too easily? These patterns reveal your receptivity threshold, the level at which your consciousness begins blocking rather than welcoming the very things you claim to desire. The wealthy mind cultivates an expanded capacity for receiving, not from a place of greed or entitlement, but from genuine openness to life's abundance. This openness operates at levels far deeper than conscious awareness, encompassing your beliefs about worthiness, your comfort with prosperity, and your capacity to hold expanded possibilities without unconsciously sabotaging them. The journey of transformation invites you to examine the hidden blockages in your receiving. Channels, the subtle ways you might be closing the very doors you consciously wish to open. These blockages rarely announce themselves directly. They operate through feelings of discomfort when good things arrive too easily, through rationalization about why abundance is problematic, or through unconscious self-sabotage when opportunities exceed your internal thermostat setting for prosperity. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how your mind operates as a dynamic flow system rather than a static container. Imagine your consciousness as a magnificent river designed to carry life, opportunities, synchronicities, and abundance through your experience. When this river flows freely, when your thoughts move with natural ease rather than constriction, everything you require for fulfillment naturally travels toward you through this current. But what happens when you fill this river with stones? When doubts about your capacity crowd the channel, when comparisons to others create dams of resentment, when blame and victimhood construct barriers to natural flow, the water, that pure current of life force, inevitably stagnates. What should be a dynamic pathway of manifestation becomes a blocked system where nothing new can enter or move. The revelation that changes everything is realizing that the transformation process doesn't require pushing the water with greater force, trying harder, wanting more intensely, or increasing your manifestation techniques. The magic happens when you simply remove the stones, when you address the limiting beliefs that obstruct flow, when you release the comparisons that create friction, when you let go of blame that diverts energy from its natural course. This metaphor reveals why some people appear to manifest with remarkable ease, while others struggle despite constant effort. The difference rarely lies in technique, but in internal obstruction. Those who manifest effortlessly have fewer stones blocking their river, not because they're special or favored, but because they've done the inner work of removing obstacles to natural flow. Your journey toward greater abundance begins with honestly identifying the stones in your river, the specific beliefs, emotions, and thought patterns that impede your natural state of receiving. These might include family programming about money being scarce or corrupting, religious conditioning about poverty being virtuous, or personal trauma creating unworthiness around prosperity. Whatever form these stones take in your experience, the path to freedom lies not in forcing the flow around them, but in gently, persistently removing them from your channel. Share in the comments, "I'm clearing my river now," if you're ready to identify and remove the specific stones that have been blocking the natural flow of abundance in your life. This understanding of receptivity reveals perhaps the most challenging aspect of the manifestation journey, the necessity of surrendering control. Here's where the transformation process encounters its greatest resistance, because receiving abundance at its deepest level requires profound humility. The ego mind isn't naturally inclined toward this kind of surrender. It wants to control the how, when, where, and who of your manifestation, essentially micromanaging the universe's delivery system according to its limited understanding. The ego insists on knowing exactly how opportunities will arise, when prosperity will appear, and through which specific channels abundance should flow. It creates elaborate plans, timelines, and expectations, then becomes frustrated when the universe doesn't follow its particular script. This controlling approach represents one of the most significant hidden barriers to genuine wealth consciousness. The breakthrough occurs when you develop the capacity to release this need for control and trust in what we might call the invisible order, that intelligence operating behind the scenes that organizes infinite variables with far greater wisdom than your conscious mind could ever manage. This invisible order knows precisely what belongs in your experience and will deliver it at the perfect moment through channels you may not have even considered. This surrender doesn't mean abandoning inspired action or strategic thinking. Rather, it means holding your plans loosely while remaining open to unexpected pathways and synchronicities. It means recognizing that your conscious mind can see only a tiny fraction of the possibilities that exist, while the universal intelligence can orchestrate circumstances beyond your imagination. The journey toward mastery involves developing a dynamic balance between focused intention and open receptivity, between knowing clearly what you desire while remaining flexible about how it arrives. This paradoxical state combines direction with surrender, vision with trust, clarity with openness. And in this balanced consciousness, manifestation accelerates, precisely because you've stopped blocking its natural expression through rigid expectations. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding what ultimately determines your financial reality. Beyond all external factors, beyond strategy, beyond effort, beyond market conditions, lies what we might call your internal pattern. This pattern, though invisible to physical eyes, creates the template that shapes every visible result in your experience. Think of this pattern as the energetic architecture that precedes all material expression, the blueprint from which your entire life experience is constructed. It includes your beliefs about what's possible, your expectations about what you deserve, your assumptions about how reality operates, your comfort level with various financial thresholds, and your unconscious programming around wealth and worthiness. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that your external circumstances aren't determining your pattern. Your pattern is determining your circumstances. What appears as talent, luck, or even the results of hard work are all ultimately expressions of this deeper template operating beneath conscious awareness. Two people can possess identical talents, work equally hard, and implement similar strategies, yet experience dramatically different results because they're operating from fundamentally different internal patterns. This understanding liberates you from the endless cycle of trying to change results without addressing their source. It explains why so many people find themselves repeatedly encountering the same financial ceiling, despite changing jobs, locations, or strategies. The pattern simply reproduces itself through new circumstances until it's addressed directly. Your internal wealth pattern wasn't consciously chosen. It was inherited and absorbed through family conditioning, cultural programming, early experiences with money, religious teachings, and countless subtle influences that shaped your relationship with abundance. But while you didn't choose it initially, you now have the power to recognize and transform it through conscious awareness. The pathway towards sustainable prosperity begins with honestly examining your current pattern, not judging it as good or bad, but simply observing how it operates in your experience. What are the recurring themes in your financial story? What invisible thresholds seem to trigger self-sabotage? What beliefs about money feel so fundamentally True that you've never questioned them? This courageous self-inquiry represents the foundation of genuine transformation. Drop in the comments, "I'm rewriting my wealth pattern," if you're ready to address the invisible template that's been silently shaping your financial reality all along. This understanding of your internal pattern leads us to a profound insight that completely transforms conventional approaches to wealth creation. The journey toward prosperity isn't fundamentally about acquiring new skills, strategies, or information, though these certainly have their place. At its core, becoming wealthy is about unlearning and undoing the pattern of scarcity that you've been carrying in the depths of your being, often without conscious awareness of its presence or influence. This revelation explains why simply adding more financial knowledge or techniques to your existing consciousness often produces minimal results. It's like planting healthy seeds in soil that's been poisoned. The environment itself prevents what you're trying to grow from flourishing. The transformation process requires addressing the soil of your consciousness before any new planting can truly thrive. The patterns you're working to release have extraordinarily deep roots. They weren't formed through casual influences, but through profound imprinting during your most formative years. The words you heard repeated about money as a child, the emotional charge you witnessed in financial discussions, the subtle comparisons that shaped your sense of economic worthiness, and perhaps, most powerfully, the fears you observed in your parents or caretakers around financial matters. These early imprints didn't merely give you ideas about money. They literally shaped the neural pathways through which you process all financial information and opportunities. They established your baseline assumptions about what's possible, what's appropriate, what's safe, and what's available to someone like you. And because these patterns formed before you developed critical thinking capabilities, they operate largely beneath conscious awareness, feeling not like acquired beliefs, but like fundamental truths about reality itself. The journey of transformation involves bringing these hidden patterns into the light of awareness, not to judge them or fight against them, but to recognize their presence and origin so they can gradually lose their grip on your consciousness. This process isn't about self-blame or parental blame, but about compassionate understanding of how these limitations were installed so they can be gently but persistently released. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding what ultimately replaces these old patterns once they begin dissolving. What emerges in their place is perhaps the most extraordinary force in the universe, the invisible power of concentrated thought. This isn't positive thinking as it's commonly understood, but something far more profound and transformative. There exists an energy more potent than physical effort, more precise than lucky breaks, and more creative than any talent or skill you might possess, the focused power of thought sustained with emotional intensity and unwavering conviction. When you grasp what thought actually is, not merely a subjective mental process, but a current of creative energy that travels into the invisible field where all manifestation begins, you possess the master key to wealth creation. Most people dramatically underestimate the creative potency of their thoughts because they don't understand their true nature. Your thoughts aren't contained within your physical brain. They're literal energy transmissions that extend beyond your body and interact with the field of infinite possibility that surrounds you. When these thoughts remain scattered, contradictory, or fleeting, their creative impact is minimal. But when they achieve coherence and concentration through sustained focus, they become the primary shaping force of your material reality. This understanding transforms your relationship with thinking itself. You begin treating your thoughts not as casual mental activity, but as precious creative resources, the raw materials from which your future will be constructed. You become increasingly selective about which thoughts you entertain, which mental movies you replay, and which internal conversations you participate in, recognizing that each one is literally programming the field that generates your experience. The wealthy mind doesn't merely think differently, it thinks with extraordinary concentration, clarity, and consistency. It doesn't allow its creative energy to disperse through mental chatter, worry loops, or aimless speculation. Instead, it channels that energy with laser-like precision towards specific outcomes, maintaining focus not just during occasional visualization sessions, but as a consistent way of engaging with reality. Share in the comments, my concentrated thought is creating wealth. If you're beginning to recognize the extraordinary creative power that's been operating through your thinking all along, waiting to be harnessed with greater intention and focus. This insight about concentrated thought reveals a perfect metaphor that illuminates the entire manifestation process. Think about how light operates in the physical world. Ordinary sunlight gently illuminates everything it touches, creating visibility without dramatic transformation. But when that same light passes through a magnifying glass and focuses on a single point, something remarkable happens. It creates enough heat to ignite a fire. Your thoughts follow precisely the same principle. When scattered and diffuse, they create general awareness without significant creative impact, but when concentrated on a single point with unwavering attention and emotional intensity, they generate enough creative energy to literally ignite new realities into existence. This isn't metaphorical. It's the actual mechanism through which thought translates into physical experience. The transformation begins when you shift from casual, scattered thinking about prosperity to the disciplined practice of concentrated thought, holding a single vision with such clarity and persistence that it begins generating its own momentum in the field of manifestation. This focused thought isn't merely wishing or fantasizing, it's a profound creative act that the universe recognizes and responds to with mathematical precision. When you achieve this level of mental concentration, when your thought burns with purpose rather than flickering with doubt, the universe quite literally begins to obey, not because it favors you personally, but because concentrated thought activates universal laws that operate with perfect consistency regardless of who employs them. The field of manifestation doesn't distinguish between persons. It distinguishes only between frequencies, responding with perfect fidelity to whatever vibration you consistently emit. This understanding transforms visualization from an occasional practice into a sophisticated creative technology. You begin approaching your mental images not as pleasant daydreams, but as precise blueprints being transmitted directly to the intelligent substance that shapes all physical reality. The clarity, detail, and emotional charge you bring to these images determine the precision of their eventual manifestation. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of wealth consciousness, a principle that completely inverts conventional approaches to prosperity. Here's the hidden truth few ever grasp. You don't chase money. Money perceives you. And it does so not primarily through your actions, credentials, or strategies, but through the energy you emanate when you think, speak, and move through the world. This revelation explains why some people seem to attract financial opportunities effortlessly while others struggle despite working frantically. Money, like all energy, responds not to effort but to resonance. It's drawn to certain frequencies and repelled by others, operating through principles of energetic attraction rather than merit or fairness as human systems might define them. Each person vibrates at a unique frequency that acts as an electromagnetic signature, broadcasting continuously into the field of potential. This vibrational offering isn't determined by your conscious intentions or affirmations, but by the sum total of your beliefs, expectations, emotions, and dominant thought patterns. It's the energetic essence you transmit beneath your words and actions, the silent signal that determines what you attract or repel. The mentally wealthy person doesn't pursue money through desperate action or anxious planning. Instead, they cultivate a specific energetic signature that naturally magnetizes prosperity. They emanate confidence without arrogance, certainty without rigidity, and abundance without attachment. This isn't about superficial positive thinking, but about a fundamental shift in your relationship with wealth at the level of energy rather than strategy. The transformation journey involves recognizing that your relationship with money isn't primarily transactional, but vibrational. Your earnings don't ultimately reflect your worth, education, or even your actions. They mirror the frequency you consistently broadcast. When that frequency shifts from scarcity to abundance, from unworthiness to deservingness, from anxiety to trust, your external financial reality shifts in corresponding ways, often through pathways you couldn't have consciously orchestrated. Share in the comments, "I am a money magnet," if you're beginning to recognize how your energetic signature might be attracting or repelling prosperity regardless of your conscious intentions or external efforts. This understanding of your energetic relationship with wealth naturally leads us to a profound practice that accelerates manifestation beyond all other approaches. Here's the transformation catalyst that changes everything. You must learn to act and think like someone who already possesses what you desire, not from fantasy or pretending, but from genuine energetic coherence. This isn't about fake it till you make it superficiality. It's about embodying a new frequency with such conviction that your entire being aligns with it. Consider this thought experiment. If a person who already lives in profound abundance, someone who's internalized wealth, consciousness completely, suddenly woke up in your exact body, with your current bank account, your current environment, and your current resources, how differently would they navigate the day? How would they walk through a room, carrying themselves with quiet confidence rather than subtle anxiety? How would they speak about money and opportunity from certainty rather than wishful thinking? How would their mind process challenges, seeing pathways where others see only obstacles? The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that you don't need to wait for external circumstances to shift before adopting this internal stance. You can step into this consciousness right now, not as an act of pretending, but as a decision to align with what you know is your authentic abundance, regardless of temporary appearances. This embodiment isn't about denying current challenges, but about relating to them from an entirely different level of consciousness. This practice operates at a level far deeper than visualization or affirmation, because it involves your entire being, your posture, your voice tonality, your breathing pattern, your decision-making process, your emotional baseline. When you truly embody the consciousness of someone who already lives in abundance, you transmit that frequency through every aspect of your existence, creating a coherent signal that the universe can only mirror back to you as expanded prosperity. The transformation begins when you recognize that the wealthy version of yourself isn't some distant future identity you're working toward, but rather your authentic self beneath the temporary limitations you've accepted. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you truly are beneath the conditioning. This recognition allows you to step into abundance consciousness, not as an act of imagination, but as a return to your natural state. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding perhaps the most sacred dimension of the manifestation process, what we might call the Creator's silence. This represents the pinnacle of wealth consciousness, the space where external techniques give way to profound inner knowing. Here's the revolutionary insight that transforms everything. The universe doesn't ultimately respond to mental noise, desperate pleading, or even passionate desire. It responds to the deep calm where your mind stops, begging, and starts knowing. Most approaches to manifestation operate primarily through mental activity, affirmations repeated, visualizations practiced, goals written and reviewed. While these techniques certainly have value as redirectional tools, they represent the kindergarten of manifestation rather than its mastery. The highest level of creative power emerges not through more mental activity, but through accessing the profound silence at your core where certainty resides without effort. In this sacred silence, manifestation shifts from asking to recognizing, from pleading for what seems absent to acknowledging what already exists in invisible form. This represents a complete inversion of conventional manifestation approaches. You're no longer attempting to attract something external through effort or technique. You're allowing what already exists in potential form to emerge into physical expression through your alignment with it. The creator's silence isn't empty or passive. It's incredibly alive and potent, filled with the unspoken certainty that what you desire already exists in the invisible realm of pure potential. From this space of knowing, you no longer need to convince yourself or persuade the universe. You simply rest in the profound recognition that abundance is your natural state, and its physical expression is simply a matter of allowing rather than achieving. This silence represents the state of consciousness where manifestation accelerates beyond what technique alone could produce. When your mind quiets from its constant chatter about what's missing or how things should be, you enter the creative vortex where transformation happens with remarkable ease and synchronicity, not because you're trying harder, but because you've stopped interfering with the natural flow of abundance that's always been available to you. Comment below, "I rest in the Creator's silence," if you're beginning to sense how this profound inner quietude might be the missing element in your wealth creation journey, the sacred space where abundance flows not through effort but through alignment. This journey toward wealth consciousness brings us to perhaps the most profound key that unlocks all doors in the universe. It's not faith, though faith plays its role. It's not hope, though hope can inspire action. The master key that changes everything is recognition. The living awareness that you already exist in a field of unlimited abundance, even when your physical eyes haven't yet registered its tangible expression. Recognition operates at a level beyond belief or affirmation. When you truly recognize your inherent connection to abundance, you're not trying to convince yourself of something that feels untrue. You're simply acknowledging what has always been the case, that you exist within an infinitely abundant universe that's continuously offering prosperity through countless channels, many of which you've been unconsciously blocking through your limiting perceptions. This shift from seeking to recognizing represents a complete revolution in consciousness. Most people approach wealth as something distant they must struggle toward, a future state they hope to eventually achieve through persistent effort. But the truth that liberates is realizing that abundance isn't something you attain. It's something you tune into, a frequency that's been broadcasting continuously while you've been listening to different stations. The transformation journey involves developing your capacity to recognize abundance even amidst apparent limitation, to train your perception to see beyond temporary circumstances to the field of infinite possibility that underlies all material expression. This isn't denial or fantasy, but expanded awareness that perceives reality more completely rather than less. Think about how dramatically your experience shifts when you walk through life with this recognition activated. The same opportunities that once seemed closed become visible and accessible. The same resources that appeared scarce suddenly reveal their abundance. The same challenges that felt overwhelming transform into stepping stones for growth. Nothing in your external environment has necessarily changed, but your relationship with everything has fundamentally shifted through this simple yet profound recognition. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the extraordinary mechanism through which your thoughts interact with the field of manifestation. Behind the veil of physical appearances exists something that most people never consciously perceive: an invisible portal, a responding frequency that vibrates in perfect harmony with the thoughts you consistently hold and the emotions you regularly experience. Though your physical senses may report a world of solid objects and fixed conditions, the deeper reality is that everything around you is alive, responsive, and perpetually listening to the broadcast of your consciousness. Each thought you maintain opens a specific portal in the field of infinite possibility, activating a corresponding frequency that begins orchestrating circumstances, encounters, and opportunities aligned with that vibration. This revelation transforms your relationship with thinking itself. Your thoughts aren't merely subjective experiences contained within your skull. They're literal instructions transmitted to a living intelligence that interprets and manifests according to the frequency you broadcast. When you grasp that everything in your experience, from the chair you're sitting on to the economic circumstances you're navigating, is fundamentally energy responding to consciousness, you recognize your role as an active creator rather than a passive recipient of reality. The world isn't happening to you, it's responding to you. And this response operates with mathematical precision according to the thoughts you consistently energize with emotion and conviction. Every worry you habitually entertain, every limitation you accept as truth, and every possibility you embrace with certainty creates a corresponding portal through which specific experiences flow into your life. The journey of transformation involves becoming increasingly conscious of which portals you're opening through your dominant thought patterns. Are you activating frequencies of limitation and struggle, or channels of opportunity and expansion? Are you broadcasting signals of unworthiness that close doors before you reach them, or emanating confidence that naturally attracts appropriate pathways? This isn't about artificially forcing positive thoughts to replace negative ones, an approach that creates its own form of internal conflict. It's about genuinely shifting your perception to recognize the living, responsive nature of reality itself and consciously choosing which frequencies you'll activate through your attention and emotional investment. Share in the comments, "I see the portals I'm creating," if you're beginning to recognize how your consistent thought patterns might be opening or closing specific channels through which abundance can flow into your experience. This understanding of invisible portals brings us to perhaps the most powerful force operating in your wealth creation process, an intelligence within you that never sleeps, never takes a day off, and faithfully executes every instruction you give it, whether consciously or unconsciously. This extraordinary force doesn't require your verbal commands or conscious direction. It responds to the mental images and emotional frequencies you regularly transmit, translating them into lived experience with remarkable precision. This silent architect of your destiny is your subconscious mind, not merely a storage facility for memories and conditioning, as conventional psychology might suggest, but an active creative intelligence constantly shaping your reality according to the dominant patterns you've installed within it. While your conscious mind may set goals and make plans, it's your subconscious that ultimately determines which of those intentions manifest and which remain perpetually out of reach. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what you consciously want and what you unconsciously believe. It simply executes according to your deepest programming, creating circumstances, opportunities, and limitations that precisely mirror your internal landscape. This explains the common experience of consciously desiring prosperity while unconsciously creating the opposite. Your subconscious simply manifests according to its strongest impressions, regardless of your surface wishes. What makes this mechanism so powerful is understanding that your subconscious operates continuously, whether you're awake or asleep, focused or distracted. While your conscious mind might affirm abundance for 5 minutes during morning meditation, your subconscious is broadcasting your actual wealth blueprint 24 hours a day. This explains why occasional visualization practices often produce limited results. They're attempting to override years of contrary programming with brief, sporadic interventions. The transformation journey involves recognizing that genuine wealth creation requires reprogramming at the subconscious level, installing new patterns of expectation, possibility, and worthiness that operate automatically rather than through continual conscious effort. This reprogramming happens not primarily through verbal affirmations, but through emotionally charged mental imagery that speaks the native language of the subconscious. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the field through which this subconscious broadcasting operates, the invisible medium that connects your internal state with your external experience. Imagine for a moment that each thought you emit transforms into a luminous wave of energy, traveling outward faster than sound, extending far beyond the boundaries of your physical body. These thought waves don't simply disappear after you think them. They continue expanding outward into an invisible ocean of consciousness that surrounds and permeates all existence. This invisible field isn't theoretical or metaphorical. It's as real as the chair you're sitting on, though it operates at a frequency beyond physical perception. Modern quantum physics increasingly validates this understanding through discoveries about non-locality, entanglement, and the observer effect that demonstrate consciousness itself shapes material reality. You exist within this field not as a separate entity observing it from outside, but as an integral participant whose thoughts and feelings continuously ripple through the entire system. In this model of reality, you function simultaneously as a transmitter, an antenna, and a channel through which consciousness flows and transforms. Every thought you entertain, every emotion you experience, and every belief you hold creates specific frequencies in this field, activating corresponding potentials that eventually manifest in your physical experience. Nothing in your life exists separately from this broadcasting. Your financial circumstances, relationships, health, and opportunities all represent perfect reflections of the frequencies you've been consistently transmitting, often without conscious awareness. The breakthrough occurs when you recognize your role as an active participant in this field, rather than a passive recipient of circumstances. You're not merely living within reality, you're actively translating potential into experience through your consciousness. When you grasp that the field responds with perfect precision to the frequencies you broadcast, whether of limitation or possibility, of unworthiness or deservingness, you gain access to the primary creative mechanism through which all manifestation occurs. Share in the comments, I am consciously broadcasting abundance, if you're ready to take responsibility for the frequencies you're transmitting into this responsive field that shapes your entire experience of reality. As we conclude this journey together, I want to thank you for exploring these profound truths about abundance and the creative power of your mind. What you've discovered today isn't just information, it's an invitation to step into an entirely new relationship with wealth, consciousness, and your own creative potential. If these insights have sparked something within you, a recognition of truths you've always sensed but perhaps couldn't articulate, then our connection has served its purpose. The awakening that's beginning now doesn't end with this video. It continues to unfold as you integrate these principles into your daily awareness and watch your reality transform in response. I create these conversations because I believe this wisdom has the power to liberate us from unnecessary struggle and reconnect us with our natural state of abundance. If you feel the same resonance, consider subscribing to join our community of conscious creators who are applying these principles in their lives and witnessing remarkable transformations. The journey of wealth consciousness isn't meant to be walked alone. Drop a comment saying, "I've awakened to abundance," if these ideas have illuminated something significant for you. Your voice adds to the collective field we're creating together, a field that strengthens as more minds align with these truths. If you found value in our time together, leaving a like creates ripples in the algorithm that help others discover these same principles when they're ready. It's a simple gesture that extends this wisdom to those who might be searching for exactly what you found today. There's another dimension to this conversation waiting for you in the video appearing right now. It explores how these same principles of consciousness can transform not just your wealth, but every relationship in your life. Click through when you're ready to continue this exploration together. Remember, the recognition you've experienced today isn't the end. It's the first light of dawn in a new way of being. Your journey into abundance consciousness is just beginning, and I'm honored to walk alongside you as it unfolds.